simple and mundane to some, but it's actually a great way for children to develop and learn about their physical and emotional world. But experts are taking it a step further with an approach called developmental play that makes sure children have the basics to help them grow to their full potential. Here to tell us more about this and how we can help kids with special needs, we have occupational therapist Mona Lisa Huse. She's the director and owner of the Kaleidoscope Therapy and Learning Center. She's also a consultant for Create CAP Singapore. Welcome to Dateline Philippines, Miss Guse.
Good afternoon, Ms. Rain. Thank you so much for inviting me here. It's my honor and it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Mona Lisa, you've actually been trained as an occupational therapist. You've worked all over. You have the US, Canada, Singapore, and here also in Batangas. Can you tell us what kind of kids you've worked with and what kind of trend you're seeing with the kind of children that you're working with?
Okay, I'm working as an OT for 21 years. Like you mentioned, I'm OT and licensed OT in US, Canada, and I even work in Singapore for 7 years as the head of early intervention program. So for the past 21 years, I noticed that there are more and more children who are being referred for occupational therapy and speech therapy. I started to notice the increase in number in 2005 when we had more children with autism. In 2005, in every 500 live births, there is one child diagnosed with autism. Right now, in every 48 live births, we have one child with autism. So it's quite scary and alarming. And I think the reason, we cannot really pinpoint the cause of autism. For ADHD, we know environmental. But for autism, it's still unknown, or the etiology is unknown. But the signs and symptoms of autism, it's lack of play, social interaction, and some sensory processing problem. It's all rooted from lack of play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And is this, so of course, there's physical play and there's gadget play, or like, these are also engaging, actually. It's gameplay still, but what is the difference between having to play with the physical world and engaging your child through a gadget play or online play?
Because engaging the child in the physical world, it involves more of the natural play, the nature play. It gives you the three-dimensional and even the emotional and physical input given by the environment and given by the people around the child. If it's just gadget, it's just two-way, or actually it's just one-way interaction. There's no two-way interaction that you can really see among children with autism. They only have one-way interaction. They don't see that if someone asks them to respond, they don't respond because they're just focused on one-way interaction. So that's why physical play, nature play is really important for the children.
In your experience, the kind of children that you work with, their conditions that they have, you're mentioning autism is becoming a lot more common, as well as ADHD. Is it limited to a certain income of families? Is it really more the high-income families who are experiencing this, or it besets everyone, all kinds of children from all income levels and all kinds of countries?
Yes, you're right. For all walks of life, it's there. But I think it's more, you commonly see it in high-income family because of they have the capacity to pay the developmental and behavioral pediatrician or the therapist. But even at Batangas at Kaleidoscope Therapy Learning Center, we still see children coming from low-income families. And even when I work in Singapore, even those coming from low-income families, we have children. I encountered children with autism, ADHD, GBD, and even Down syndrome. So it's for all walks of life.
And so you're partnering with Bantay Bata, and what kind of conditions are you seeing from among the children there? What kind of developmental play or what kind of developmental needs are they needing at the moment or needing addressed at the moment?
Actually, when I spoke to Miss Jing, I discussed about this, that I see a lot of need of these children at Bantay Bata, at Children's Village. Actually, I suggested that they really need some form of therapy, but through developmental play, even though they don't have a house-in therapist, it will really help the children to develop their emotional and even their physical needs. Some of the social worker are even telling me that some of these children still seek to be outside, to be at the streets, because this is where they grow up. So I think developmental play will really help the social workers and the house parents to have the knowledge to bring back these children to the bottom of the pyramid. I think some of them really didn't have the experience to do some sensory body play because of the trauma that they experienced during the time that they're growing up.
Right. So, what kind of treatment mode do we need? Do these kinds of children need? Is it always a tandem of therapy as well as training, such as tutorials or sports or music? When a child is undergoing a psycho-emotional condition, is it a program of activities, of those 4 activities, all in tandem, or can you just do one if you can't afford all of them?
Okay, for developmental play, it's like a one-stop shop. Everything is there, but actually children are still advised to, if the doctor prescribed them or referred them, to go for an occupational therapy session or a speech therapy session, because the OT and speech therapist can use developmental play also. But teachers, house parents, and social workers can use developmental play. We really have those different type of activities that the children can really enjoy, and it's easy to be learned by the social workers from Bantay Bata.
I know from personal experience that developmental play can actually be very, very freeing for children, especially since it's when they're at play that they let their guards down and allow adults to actually tell them what's wrong, in what they're experiencing. So now you have a developmental play conference next week. What kind of people would benefit the most from this kind of conference? What do they have to look forward to?
Okay, so this conference, the professionals like occupational therapists, speech therapists, doctors, teachers, social workers, psychologists, and even parents, they can attend this conference. They will learn a lot. Especially we have, I think, 16 speakers, and 15 are all global leaders of play. It's headed by Dr. David Whitebread. He is the founder of in the Center for Research in Play Education in Cambridge, UK. And then another speaker is Dr. Pablo Stansberry. He is the Regional Director of UNICEF in East Asia Pacific region.
So if they wanted to register for this developmental play conference, how do they do that? And how many people are you expecting to come?
I think about 200. And we are partnering with Bantay Bata, with Ma'am Jean Castaneda, and then Save the Children, and we also have Candle for India. So those are our partners, and they can register through a Create Cat website, and then they can send email to ktlc.cpd@gmail.com.
All right, we wish you luck for the Developmental Play Conference, as well as your work with Bantay Bata and Kaleidoscope. Thank you so much for joining us today. Mona Lisa Guse, Director, Owner, and Occupational Therapist at Kaleidoscope Therapy and Learning Center, as well as Create Cat Singapore. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ms. Rain.
We appreciate it. Thank you. Now, as we earlier reported, the blood